Hey guys, welcome back to a Maverick podcast. Joining here with me today, we have Kevin, Xavier, and Tony. So guys, welcome to a podcast. As you can see, we're in a different setup today. Should be still bringing the same vibe, hopefully.
Yeah, that's good.
But did you guys catch the game last weekend? The grand final, Storms and Panthers.
The biggest robbery in grand final history.
Yeah, right. Yeah, bro.
Ashley Klein messes up another game again.
What about you, Xavier? Did you?
Nah, bro, I was sick. I didn't catch the game.
Anyways, so we'll move on to today's topic for discussion, which is about the economic impact of wars and conflicts on the economy. More specifically, we will be discussing on the more recent events with Russia and Ukraine, obviously, and Israel and Palestine. But I guess we could start off with Russia and Ukraine, and then we'll move on to Israel and Palestine. So, Kevin, how has the war affected the GDP growth of Russia and Ukraine?
Well, in 2022, Russia's GDP fell by 2.2% due to international sanctions and trade disruptions. Ukraine, however, its GDP fell by 30%, a big drop compared to Russia. It is due to infrastructure damage, displacement of people, and economic disruptions. And afterwards, the years following, it was heavily reliant on international support in terms of financial aid and military aid from countries such as the US. Basically that's...
Yeah, wow. So Russia's GDP only dropped by 2.2%, in contrast to Ukraine, which dropped by 30%. I think they kind of give us an insight into the war. Like,
you could see really getting affected.
And what specific sanctions have had the most significant impact on the Russian economy?
The most significant sanctions affecting the Russian economy could include financial sanctions, which restrict Russian banks from accessing international financial systems such as SWIFT. Export controls could be another sanction, which is basically where there are restrictions on high-tech goods and technology, mainly in sectors such as aerospace and defense. Another sanction could be energy sector restrictions targeting Russia's oil and gas industries, including bans on technology transfers. And these are just some of the many sanctions affecting the Russian economy right now.
So Tony, what are the main challenges facing Ukraine in terms of economic reconstruction and recovery?
There's quite a lot, but I like to keep it short. So first of all, we have infrastructure damage. So critical infrastructures like roads, hospitals, and utilities destroyed, which require significant building efforts. Secondly, we have displacement and humanitarian needs. Large-scale displacement caused by the war, which also causes strain on the recovery efforts. Lastly, is the economic disruptions, major setbacks on agriculture, manufacturing, like it affects trade, exports and imports.
Yeah. So we'll move on to Palestine and Israel. How do defenses and security expenditures in Israel impact its overall economic budget and public services?
Well, it has a significant impact on the overall budget and its spending. It spends a big chunk of its budget on defense and security, which means there is less money to be spent on other areas such as public services like education, healthcare, social services, which leads to underfunded programs and reduced quality in these services. Although defense spending is important for economic activity, it pulls money away from essential areas like technology and infrastructure, which in the long term is vital for its economic growth. And it's an ongoing struggle for Israel to balance the spending and choose between defense spending and investing in public services.
Yeah, you can sort of imagine the government has to have a focus on defending their people or providing for the people. So they're sort of torn between that. And what is the scale of infrastructure damage in the Palestinian territories, and how does it affect economic development?
The infrastructure damage in the Palestinian territories is pretty significant, particularly in Gaza, where conflicts have led to the destruction of homes, roads, and utilities. This damage affects economic development by disrupting economic activities, reducing productivity, and limiting access to market services. Damaged infrastructure also delays reconstruction efforts and strains financial resources. Another one could be the destruction of utilities like water and electricity services, which prevents the basic public services, affecting the quality of life and economic stability of Palestine. So yeah, there's a few challenges faced by Palestine after all the damage, Yeah.
And what are the current employment rates in Gaza and the West Bank, and how has the conflict contributed to these rates?
So, as of recent data, Gaza's unemployment rate is 40%. 40%. And it is the highest globally, mainly because of the widespread destruction and, of course, the ongoing war. So, secondly, the West Bank is around 15%. Even though lower than Gaza, it remains high due to the movement restrictions caused by the conflict. So yeah, that's...
Yeah, wow. I mean, 40% unemployment rate.
That's
crazy.
Kind of reminds me of like our country, like the way we did it and whatnot.
Yeah, no different.
But we'll move on to the second segment of our podcast, which will be the solutions for countries, the economies affected, what the government could do. What are the key priorities for economic reconstruction in Ukraine following the conflict?
For Ukraine, for economic reconstruction, the first step they would take would be rebuilding essential infrastructure such as roads, utilities, and housing. This is to get economic activity back on track and to improve living standards. Along with that, there's a need to stabilize the economy by boosting key industries such as agriculture and manufacturing, which increases exports and production, which is good for the country's revenue and profit. Also, in terms of humanitarian support, it's important to get help for the people who have been displaced and the communities and people that have been displaced by the war. And finally, they have to strengthen the governance and fight corruption in the city.
Yeah.
To build trust and attract investors. Corruption is a big challenge for them.
Yeah.
Funding, planning, and everything.
How can Russia's economy be diversified to reduce dependence on sectors severely impacted by the conflict and international sanctions?
A few ways to reduce the dependence on sectors impacted by conflict and sanctions is to invest in technology, manufacturing, and agriculture, to develop another way of gaining revenue, and reduce the reliance on the energy sector, because, as I stated before, there was a sanction put on the energy sector in Russia. Another way is to promote SMEs by providing financial and regulatory support to diversify the economic base and drive growth in different sectors. Lastly is to seek new trade agreements and partnerships with non-Western countries to access different markets and supply chains. Yeah, these measures can help Russia build a more resilient and diversified economy.
Yeah, because obviously the key sectors such as oil and stuff have been trade has been affected by these sanctions, so they need to look to other sources of revenue and income for their country.
Yeah, that's right.
So now moving on, what are the immediate priorities for economic reconstruction in the Palestinian territories after a conflict?
So, first of all, you've got to revive economic activities. So, revive agriculture and businesses to generate income and provide employment for the unemployed. Secondly, they want to rebuild infrastructure, utilities, buildings, housing, hospitals and stuff. Once hospitals are built, that's when humanitarian aid comes in. Displaced, injured and hungry population can be well cared for to stabilize communities, and hopefully the entire population is under control or regulated.
Now, how can Israel address infrastructure needs and repair damage caused by the conflict?
For Israel to rebuild after the conflict, Israel should start by fixing critical infrastructure such as utilities and transportation. Securing funding is key, whether through government budget or through international aid. Partnering up with private companies should speed up the process of getting this funding. Having a solid plan ensures funds are used wisely, and advanced construction techniques can make infrastructure more resilient and against future challenges. These steps or measures, if these were followed by Israel, they should be good, and the reconstruction of the economy should be efficient and prepare them for what's ahead.
Yeah. Well, that was our last question. I think it's very important, like for our audiences, if you guys are watching this, to look into the current events going on around the world and like what the impact of these events have on the economy for like certain countries. Because like even if you're not a part of that country and you're not affected by the war and whatnot, like you're still affected in some way through like international trade, prices, fuel prices, yeah, it's quite expensive. Inflation. To be honest, yeah. And like another thing, like unemployment rates. Wow,
40%.
40%. That's crazy.
Yeah, I wonder what's PNG's.
Let's just hope that PNG does not get.
Let's not look at it.
Yeah, that's why we don't want to look at it.
Wow, yeah. Well, this has possibly been our best episode so far, guys. Just want to say thank you guys for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
It's a pleasure
Thanks for
being
having us
on the show, man.
And thank you guys for watching at home. Make sure to catch us up in our next episode, which will be probably around next month. So yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you guys.